Folks, welcome inside the Parisi Palace, high above 3773 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Comedy on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And as I continue along on this journey, oftentimes I get in the car, jump on a plane to go see my band, my people, my bands, and sometimes I keep thinking to myself, there's no Western dogma involved in this. I mean, there's no scheming. There's nothing dubious going on. I certainly am not making any money. And I'm like, well, why am I doing this? And it's always comes back to the same thing. And that is healing through vibration and rhythm and love and being able to come back and take that into my world and inspire people to be themselves. And so I went to go see my favorite band a couple months ago, Circles Around the Sun, and the opening act was my next guest in her band, and it was just there's something about the essence of music and sort of the performance of music where they often say you won't remember what they said, but you'll remember how they made you feel. And I really enjoyed just sort of the vibe and the energy and the originality of the music coming out of this group. And my guest is somebody who's an incredibly hip person. She's under, I don't know how to say this, but I think that she has many protectors. I think that sometimes it gets kind of cumbersome because everybody's trying to protect her or quote unquote look out for her. So the idea there is, how do I trust? Who can I trust? And really, ultimately, what is going to make me happy? But this cat, just super, super hip, super talented, playing a very unique instrument in an improvisational setting with a band of guys that I've interviewed a bunch of them, and they are all just classic people. They've endeared themselves to me already, and I look forward to seeing her as much as possible in the near future. Mikaela Davis, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Oh, thanks for the sweet introduction, Jake. It's great to be here.
It's an honor to have you, my friend. Can you just talk about this very interesting cat, I believe your brother, Skydev? Like, what has he meant to you in your life? I got to be honest, I was on the tour, the little tour that I saw you on with Circles, he seems like maybe your greatest protector.
Oh, that's really sweet. Yeah, absolutely. Skylar is my younger brother, and we have been extremely close. He's one of my best friends, and he actually ended up driving us around kind of on accident. He was living out in Utah for a couple of months, and we went through Utah to visit him and stay with him when we were on the road. And our dad lives in California, so very last minute, Skylar decided, well, I'm going to hop in the van with you guys and come to California and surprise Dad. So he did just that. And so he ended up really helping us out, though, doing a lot of the driving. And it was his first time touring with me. And I know afterwards he said that it was some of the best times of his life, and it was really life-changing. So that was extremely special to me. And I think that, maybe down the line he'll come out with us on the road again. And
that was his first time. Okay, so that was his first time.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so cool, because I assumed,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's probably, like family ties. He's probably out with Mikaela, doing the tour managing. But can you talk about, Mikaela, how you have learned to trust your instinct in terms of an intuition as it relates to how to surround yourself with, Skylar's your brother, but, clearly you have this certain aesthetics and, sort of point of view about who you want to surround yourself in a band. And I kind of wanted you to talk about if that was kind of trial and error, or you've kind of always been somebody who kind of knows right away that, maybe the person's not the most flashy person, or they may not be like the most extroverted or whatever, but they're going to be a good fit in that big machine,
Right. Well, Alex and I go way, way back. We went to school together
I
and grew
want
up around the
pictures of
corner
you. I
from
want
each
pictures of you
other.
and him from like fifth grade or whatever. I really do.
I'll try to find some
No, I'm
from
just
high
saying, like, it's
school.
really cool.
And
How did you meet? So, talk about that. Like, it was just very innocent. You just started playing. I think he said he was playing glockenspiel for a while. I don't even remember actually.
yeah, yeah. Well, we were really good friends in high school, and we like rode the bus home together, and I'd go hang out at Alex's house, walk over there, and all of our buddies. And I started showing him some of the songs I was writing, and he wanted to play shows with me. And at the time, I was just playing solo harp, so he was a drummer, of course, but he started off just playing bells with me, and then eventually started integrating drums into the mix, and then so yeah, that's how it started. Me on harp, Alex on bells on the glockenspiel, and then eventually he added kick and snare, I think, and then we thought, oh, we should add guitar. And Kian joined the band when we were in college. Alex met Kian at school and then brought him into the band. And so I met Kian at a band practice in like 2012, 2013. Can't quite remember. But I've been playing with Alex forever because he's just a good friend and a great musician. And then I trusted his opinion, bringing Keen into the band, and it just clicked and worked. And then we didn't have a bass player for a while for whatever reason. And then eventually we started playing bigger venues, opening for other acts. And Shane is Kian's little brother, as you know. So Shane just suggested, "Oh, hey, I'll play bass for you guys. I know all the songs." So he played a show with us at Water Street Music Hall. We were opening for Rubble Bucket, and Shane was 14, I think. And that just clicked. So Shane stayed in the band. I actually made him graduate high school a year early to tour with us.
Wow, that's like Levon Helm's father. Go ahead, continue. That's great.
Yeah, yeah. And
Hmm.
then Kurt, we've known Kurt for a long time. He's been in the Rochester music scene, a legend in the Rochester music scene forever. And we all always admired his playing, and he would play with us here and there sometimes on pedal steel and guitar. And then eventually I just started asking him to play every show. And then one day I think I realized, oh, I think Kurt's just in the band now. Like, it wasn't really a decision asking him, hey, will you join our band? But he would play with us here and there, and eventually he just started playing with us in for every show. And then now this is us, the five of us together.
Talking to Mikaela Davis here on the Jake Feinberg Show. You know, can you? I mean, you were born in upstate New York, is that right? In Rochester?
Yep, that's right.
I mean, can you talk a little bit about, your folks and sort of the lineage of your parents? I just the thing that about you, even just your physical, like your face, you almost have like, it's just like there's a lineage of like some sort of Buddhist sort of, the Eastern. Is there Eastern spiritualism? What is your bloodline exactly? And then ultimately, how did your folks, like my folks were somewhat agnostic, even though they are actually very spiritual people. I was always a very spiritual cat when I was younger, but so I had a very old soul when I was very young, and I'm still growing into that soul. And that's kind of the way I feel about you. And I just wanted to know how your parents infused soul into you as a little girl.
Well, yeah, I didn't go to church that much as a kid. My mom is more spiritual as well, and just like I don't really connect with any one religion specifically, but I am absolutely spiritual and just believe that there is something else out there, and there's like specific energies that you're drawn to, and I don't quite know what's going on in the other dimension or whatnot, but I know it's there. Something's out there, and
Can we talk? Can you
I
just? I mean,
feel
because I'm with you. I want you to talk about any time in your life that comes into your mind about when this life, when the spirit or the extraterrestrial world. Well,
mhm.
you talk about it with a surety and also humbleness because we really don't know exactly, but we
Yeah.
know there's something there. Can you talk about a time that sort of gave that made that realization come to fruition for you?
Well, I'm super connected to my family, and I I don't quite know how connected I am to like the other, what's after life, but I have had um some weird moments in my life, like dreams and maybe premonitions when I usually when someone is born or dies in my family as a kid, I would have a dream about it before it happened. And I
Hmm.
still sometimes have these weird dreams. My aunt actually passed away last year, and a couple days before she did, I had this weird dream where my mom called me on the phone and said, "Oh, hey, Oma's here. You should come home and see her." And my Oma, which is German for grandmother, she's been gone for 20 years, and but I feel specifically very connected to her, and have had whenever I have a dream about her or something mentioning her, I know that something's about to happen.
Wow.
And so my and in my dream, my mom said, "Hey, you have to come home. Almost here, uh, and someone's very sick, and they're going to die, but it's okay because almost here, and you should come home." And then in my dream, I was really confused, and then I just started like running home in my dream. I'm like, okay, I gotta go home. And I woke up and didn't really think anything of it, but I told my mom about the dream, and I didn't even know that my aunt was sick. And it happened really fast. 2 days later, she was gone. And then I realized, whoa, oh, I had that dream. That makes sense. So it's like my Oma came here to pick her up to get Edie,
Wow.
and that's what
Wow.
my dream was about.
Wow.
So, and I do feel like my Oma is my protector, and possibly like the whole family. And I don't know, like I don't necessarily believe in like one God or like heaven and hell or anything like that. Um, and I think maybe there's reincarnation, maybe, or maybe there's like this other dimension that you can be stuck in for a second when you are crossing over. And for some reason, I have this strong feeling that my almost kind of like sticking around and watching, like checking it out and waiting.
Well, let me ask you a question. How? I mean, this is. I mean, just. I know there's no hard evidence, but this zone between transitioning between lives, like how long could you be in that space for theoretically?
I think forever if
You
you
think Alma's still
don't
there, and
want
that's?
to
Do you think Alma's
leave.
still in that
I
space?
I don't
Yeah.
know, maybe, but maybe what I'm wondering is maybe you can like come back to that space when someone else is about to
Mm.
pass
Mm.
on, or something like that. Maybe.
Somebody familial or very spiritually connected or something along those lines.
Right, right. And maybe some family members decide, oh yeah, I'm just gonna move on and be reborn, or something. Or not. Or like, hey, I'm gonna check it out and wait. I mean, I don't believe time is necessarily linear, so like what time is for us could be extremely different from what time is when you passed on. I mean, I have no idea. This is all
No, no, I mean,
speculation, of
I
course,
think it's
but
really, I just feel like someone like yourself.
it's
Yeah.
interesting
Well,
to
it's
think
deep.
about.
I mean, it's very deep.
No one really knows.
Well, and I think that's part of the issue with just in general, just the insanity of today. There's so many people that have this sort of the vanity to think that they know, and nobody knows. I mean, the idea there is that you have to tap into that your multidimensional self, and I feel like we have a game on this program called Name That Voice, and I don't necessarily expect you to know who this is, but just pay attention to the content, and we'll come back and break it down.
Neither of my parents. My father was Cherokee. He didn't grow up in a Cherokee community on a reservation, but he held a lot of the values, the spiritual values of the Cherokee Nation. My father was also a Baptist preacher, and so I think that the greatest thing was that came from my dad was to grow up with him explaining living our Christian religion, but also telling us that it's the same thing. I think those who are on a spiritual path not always are religious, but with us, we were both, and he would help us understand how there was God and everything around us. My Indian grandmother did the same thing. She would come and take us all into the woods in the winter when it was cold and everything was dry and there was no apparent life in the woods. And she would say, "Get something that you think is ugly." And we would gather these baskets of these gnarly-looking burrs and sticks and things, and we go back to our house, and Mama, we called her Mama Coolidge, and she would arrange all of these things in beauty and used paints and would make something beautiful out of everything. And she said there is beauty there's beauty everywhere.
Well, that she kind of gave it away, but that was my interview with Rita Coolidge. From I don't know, seems like 5-6 years ago now. And Mikaela,
Yeah,
she would go into the woods, and her grandma would say there's beauty in everything. And I kind of just wanted to ask you, like, do you feel that way about music, the ability, sometimes maybe everybody in the band is kind of dragging, or the crowd is not that big, or they're not that attentive, or you're just not in a great, but at the end of the day, like, a lot of times the more present that I can be in the moment, the more that I recognize that I have the ability to affect positive change in my world, whether that's a Mikaela Davis concert or swimming in the pool with my kids or whatever it is. Like, some of it's attitude and some of it's life force. And I kind of wanted you to talk about how you learned to, or when you recognized as a musician that you had the ability to leave your physical body and basically help everybody, no matter what the conditions, no matter how many people were, whatever they were feeling that day, once you got into the music and just dropped everything else, magic, it was just magic. I mean, can you talk about that evolution in your career?
Yeah, I mean, for us as a band, no matter what's happening in our day-to-day lives, when we get on stage together, there is a communication, there's like a language happening that you can't compare anything to. It's like weird, we're all connected by what we're playing together, and we can talk without talking to each other, and it's just like this magic that happens on stage that that makes me feel good. And I mean, that's why we all do this for a living, because there's not much money in this business. If you're lucky,
It's ridiculous. I mean,
and,
you should be. I mean, it is. But it's true. You just nailed it.
But,
No matter what you're feeling beforehand, once you guys go on stage, it all melts away.
yeah, it's so true, because it happens all the time. And even if the crowd is really small, you can feel the energy between you and the audience members, even if there's only 10 or 15 people there. I mean, that's good enough for me. You don't want to play shows like that every time or forever, but I love what I do. I love playing music for people, and writing songs and playing with my friends. And if I have to play in clubs for 20 people for the rest of my life, I'll fucking do it. Whatever.
I love Mikaela Davis. My God. I mean, that's so cool. I read somewhere, you're going to have to fill in the gaps here, but as honestly as you can, I mean, I remember Taj Mahal told me that he's like, I saw some of the most incredibly talented cats playing, live or on the streets or whatever, and then the minute that they got plugged into the machine, in Los Angeles and whatever, they get their tentacles into you, and he's like, I never heard magic come out of them again. And I'm wondering, like, I read somewhere that you did leave Rochester for a minute and then came back because it just felt more like home. It felt more comfortable to you. And there's just so much pressure in our society today. Say, oh, look, she has all the physical beauty. She has all that. We have, we can turn her into something that can be pop marketed and make a lot of money. And I just I don't know if I was dreaming, but I just feel like you kind of made a concerted effort to say, I don't feel happy. I don't want to do this. I want to go back to where I feel like myself. And you went back to Rochester. Can you help me fill in the blanks on this story, if it's at all accurate?
Yeah, I mean, when I was much younger, I did, work with people who thought I was going to go in another direction, who thought I was going to go more pop or maybe step away from the harp. And I always pushed away from that and said, no, I play the harp. I'd consider myself a harpist before I do a singer, because I've been studying the instrument for 22 years, and I feel most connected to myself when I have my harp resting on my shoulder. So, yeah, I mean, I've always pushed away from doing what people think I should be doing, and maybe that's why it's taking a longer time to break through, but that's okay with me, because at the end of the day, you want to make art that you are proud of. You want to make art that you want to listen to, that's a success for yourself. And because if you're just trying to make art that you think will be successful in other people's eyes, I mean, you're going to fail yourself. Because in the end, are you really going to be happy with what you're doing and what you're presenting to the world as you? So, if no one ever gets it, then that's okay, because if I get it and I know what I'm saying and putting out there to the world, that's good enough for me.
Well, also, I mean, the idea, again, going into this sort of reincarnation vibe, it's like the idea that you're creating this authentic legacy that will live on long after you've transitioned into another life. I mean, it's not just static in the moment. Even if you're younger, I just want you to talk to younger cats. I mean, my daughters are like, the amount of pressure on like young girls and just people in general today is insane. I've just never, the stress is unquantifiable, whether you're in music or in school. And I just want you to talk to younger cats who are being pressured and like, to say, oh, no, we want you to, they don't have the wherewithal to say, no, I wanted to be true to myself, and the potential for them to be corrupted is there.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them? Because I have to believe that you were probably, I don't know, it must not have been an easy decision at some point when you were younger to say, no, I really believe in myself. And I just want you to talk about like the intangibles for people to say, it's okay, you're not crazy, you got to take the insecure path, and it'll be more gratifying. I mean, I just want you to talk to people who are in that exact boat of being basically manipulated and turned into something that they're not in order to make money.
Yeah, I mean, like I was saying earlier, you just have to be true to yourself and make art that feels good to you. And honestly, don't try to go with the grain and do what everyone else is doing, because that's not going to be noticed like you think it will be. I mean, I think the weird like fucked up art that no one cares about now sometimes is what
Absolutely.
people care about later. Like, oh wait, they were doing something different and that was actually really cool. And yeah, I mean, just be true to yourself, and if you have that gut feeling, follow it. And like I've always done my whole life, just follow your happiness and do what feels right. And if it feels scary to make a decision, whether it's about music or your personal life or whatever, the only way you're going to grow is by making decisions that scare you. Because if you just stay in the same place because you're comfortable and you think, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing, or these are the people I'm supposed to be around just because I'm comfortable with it, so I'm just going to keep doing this. I mean, that's a
recipe for just burning out. I mean, that's not a cool thing.
Yeah. So you gotta take chances and make decisions that might scare you, but are going to help you grow.
Can you talk about any decision that you've made in your career that you were scared to death, but in hindsight, I agree with you, the only way you grow is through adversity. Can you talk about a specific time when you really were riddled with fear, but just stayed the course, and in hindsight, it was the right decision?
Yeah, well, I went to school for harp performance. I grew up as a classical harpist and, studied with my teacher, Grace Wong, in Rochester. She was the principal harpist to the Rochester Philharmonic Orchestra. Wow. And so I grew up, I was in the youth orchestra when I was a kid, and it was still is a pretty great youth orchestra. And we would go on tour every 4 years. And then I went to college at the Crane School of Music, SUNY Potsdam, and studied with Jessica Suki Pilalis there. She's amazing harp teacher. And so anyway, when I was at school, going to college, I really felt pulled to play my music and tour with my band. But, everyone in the classical world thought I should be going this other path. I should be sticking with classical harp. And if you're a classical harpist, what you do is you get your undergrad, and then you audition and go to grad school. And this was my original plan. I was going to go to grad school. I was going to get my doctorate. I wanted to become a harp professor and teach at a college or something along those lines. And then you have to win all these big harp competitions. Like the biggest harp competition is in Israel. And that was kind of my goal. I thought, yep, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this harp competition. I want to win these competitions and play with an orchestra and get a gig with a really great orchestra and this and that. That was my original plan. but I have been writing music since I was a kid, since I was 11, and I knew that was my passion. I just didn't think it was reality, but I really started feeling pulled to do that instead, because as much as I love classical music and love learning those pieces, there was something special about playing my own music and playing with my friends in like a dive bar in a club, rather than being, on the on a stage.
I mean, let me ask you a question. So the fear is because, let's face it, if you went in the class, and I'm so glad you chose the direction you did. It's just, I mean, to me, it's so secure. The path, the secure path would have been classical harp, faculty job, steady paycheck, normalcy. That doesn't fit the bill. That's not Mikaela Davis. I mean,
well,
right. I mean, I get it.
What I realized was, honestly, that path is also just as scary, because as a harpist, I mean, these competitions are insane. I was pretty good at, I mean, I'm pretty good at the harp, but doing those competitions, it takes so much training, and I don't know if I would have gotten there anyway. But even getting a position in an orchestra is extremely difficult to do, because there's one, maybe two harpists in every orchestra. So the competition to get that job is so hard. So I thought about it one day and thought, the odds of me getting a good job in a good orchestra and becoming a teacher maybe are the same odds as me becoming successful doing something that not many other harpists are doing, and it's my own niche. So maybe that is the right way to go. And anyway, I was scared to make that decision and not go to grad school, because I knew once I didn't go to grad school, I wouldn't ever, I would stray away from having those chops, and it would, that would expire. So my teacher really wanted me to go to grad school, because she thought, you can do this. You can go to a great school, and you have the chops, and you should be doing this because you have something special. You can do this. But I mean, ultimately, she was supportive of me deciding not to go to grad school and touring with my band. But it was scary, to make that decision and stop that path. But what made me do it was my sophomore year of college, an agency reached out to me and wanted to start booking me. So I thought, okay, if there's a booking agency that wants to work with me, and then, after that I got a manager, okay, this seems more real. So I think I can do this. And so I made that decision, and I think told my teacher my junior year, because that's when you start to really prepare for what colleges you're going to audition for and so on. But I still did a lot of stuff when I was at Crane. I won the concerto competition there as a sophomore, which was pretty cool, and then performed a concerto with the orchestra on my 21st birthday. That was interesting.
When?
But
no, I mean, this is so. Push back on me on this, because I mean, I think you've kind of always grown up loving all music. So just speaking off, I mean, I think you were really hip to Dorothy Ashby. You got hip to her, right? The Afro harping stuff. And,
yeah.
I mean, that you can't get any hipper than that. I mean, that's just the greatest burning music. But like, tell me truthfully, like, at the end of the day, what gets somebody off about taking taking directives from a conductor? Like, to me, it's like playing the same concert every night and getting off on that. That I don't understand. I mean, I and I realize it's very, Eurocentric kind of stuff, but I see what you're doing, and I know in talking to the guys in the band that you've come a long way just instrumentally just improvising, you know? And so like, you know that like there's a whole other side to where you can take music, putting aside your niche and all that other stuff. And I just push back on me and say, what did you really love about like the idea of even pursuing a full-time orchestra, even though it's competitive, being in an orchestra? What is for Mikaela Davis? What is scintillating about that?
Well, I mean, I just honestly fell into that feeling of this is what I'm supposed to do. You know, that feeling of maybe not taking a chance and falling into something and deciding, oh, this is my path. This is what I've been working for. So this is what I have to do. And, you know, I started playing the harp when I was 8, and just that's what I knew. You play harp, you play in an orchestra. That's what you do. And, you know, okay, you go on, you play in the youth orchestra. That's what you do as a harpist. There's no other path for you. Like I didn't even know that there were jazz harpists until college, probably.
Sure.
And so when I started discovering that, and I discovered Joanna Newsom, who's a songwriter who plays harp, and started discovering all these different things you can do, I thought, I can do that. I want to do that. And I mean, I love playing in an orchestra. There's something really special about being with that big of a group of people, all on the same vibration, like all playing the same thing, and like coming together and making something beautiful, where everyone has their own very specific part, and you play these pieces that were written sometimes hundreds of years ago. That's pretty crazy that they're still out there being performed. But I also knew that it wasn't what I necessarily wanted, you know, sitting in the back of an orchestra, following a conductor. I was sitting back there thinking, I want to be up there. Like, I want to be in the front. I want to be in control.
Absolutely. No, we need you up in the front.
So that's what I did. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were like kind of like, was there an upright bass player or timpani, or where were you at in the configuration of the orchestra?
It depended, I suppose. I mean, I was in the back. As a harpist, you're in the back closer to like timpani.
Right.
Yeah, and such.
That's just a disservice to humanity.
You're in the background.
That would be a disservice in general. I mean,
and the hard parts are usually not in the limelight anyway. You have your hard part here, there, glissando, lots of rests, lots of counting rests. I feel like I've counted more bars of rests than have played notes being in an orchestra.
Wow. Well, this is breaking it down. I mean, ultimately, I think there's a huge issue that's a whole other conversation, but it's just the idea that what I applaud is that Mikaela Davis very easily could wind up in the academy someday when you maybe are, have gotten a lot of stuff out of your system and become, things are a little bit more settled. But the point is that the crisis now is that you have so many people at the university level or the academy that are teaching this pedagogy, and they have no bandstand experience ever. And that's a major issue. That to me is almost fraudulent. So the idea that you are road dogging it and really playing the sticky barroom floors and the upholstered sewers and all this stuff, and to me, like, that is where the soul is. And no matter what, even if you do wind up in on faculty somewhere, later on, like, you're going to be a more authentic teacher. And I think that's something that I kind of wanted to just ask you about. When I saw you 3 nights in a row, the encore in Petaluma, there was nobody. You were wheeling your harp out on like a I don't know what it was, like a
harp dolly.
A dolly. I'm like this cat, no roadie, or nobody took the cues to do it. and I asked this to Neely Casal, rest in peace, a long time ago, and I said, because when I did this interview with Krishna Das, the chanter, he said it was kind of revelatory to me. He said, I don't chant for bliss. I chant to effing live. And I played that for Neely, and he was like, I said, would your soul die if music was taken away from you? And he goes, well, I sure wouldn't want to think about that, but there's so many beautiful ways to live life. And I believed him. And I was tragically, he left us. And I just wonder, like if music was taken away from Mikaela Davis, what would happen to your soul?
That's a good question. I don't know because I've never thought of that ever happening.
I know. That's what I was saying. I think it's, this is, to me, it's like I'll send you the interview because it's kind of eerie because he goes, I mean, you could have, is there anything, do you agree with the Krishna Das line that you don't play music for bliss, you do it to effing live?
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely. I mean, I started writing songs as a kid to make myself feel better about whatever was happening in my life. I mean, it's always been like a therapy to me. Yeah. And when I'm feeling nervous or scared, I mean, honestly, just leaning the harp on my shoulder and playing. If I'm nervous, and this goes for when I was in school and about to give a concert or a performance on the harp, once I leaned the harp on my shoulder and started playing, something about the vibrations of the strings and the harp going through my body just made everything else go away, and that's my safe space.
And a bottle of Jack Daniels occasionally. But no, that's, I mean, really,
yeah.
I mean, Mikaela, you're playing the Beacon Theater, at least I think, is that the beginning of your tour? I'm looking here.
Yep, that's right, on Friday.
So, I mean, tell me a little bit about, it's just so funny you say these things. Like, yeah, you're organically, I mean, for me, like, my show is the slowest growing program ever, after like 11 years, like it just continues to be this snowball that's just really just developing on its own. And I just wonder about like, what is your definition of success? I mean, for you, to me, like you're playing pretty substantial venues. I mean, yeah, maybe I know I've talked to enough. You talk to Dan Horn, it's like at the end of a tour and you think you're walking away with a lot of money, but at the end of the day, when you pay everybody off and you put money back into the recording part of it, you really don't walk away with a lot of money. Nobody's doing it for money, but just in general, what is your definition of success? Is it merely just being in the moment and having a ball on the stage?
Yeah, I mean, having success for me is just being content with what I am playing and who I'm playing with, and if I can connect with a few people that come to a show and spread some sort of hope or happiness to them, I mean that's all I need. Simple.
Yeah, well, and but then it's like trying to clear your head during with all the other stuff that goes on in our lives. What is one area musically that you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone in order to grow?
Well, I mean, improvising, I guess, for me.
I really like your.
learning.
Yeah, no, go ahead. I mean, I really want you to keep stretching out. I mean, it doesn't have to be like circles kind of stuff, but I mean, that to me is where it's at.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what I'm doing. And
that's good though. That's okay. There's a lot. I mean, Wes Montgomery didn't know what he was doing. He didn't know what chords he was playing.
Yeah, right. Right. Yeah, the Beatles, they didn't read
No,
music
no,
either.
no.
So, you don't have to uh you don't have to be a savant at music theory, but I do know that I need to transcribe some solos and just I tend to I have a pretty good ear, and I like to play off of what other people are playing. If I hear someone spell out a motif or play something that is cool, I can answer to that, and that really helps me know where to go. Um, but I do really want to explore more and and listen to more jazz. I grew up going to the Rochester Jazz Festival uh, every year in high
Ah,
school, and my friends were all jazz players. Alex and Keen went to school for jazz, so like classical musician. Just always playing what's on the page. It is kind of scary to try to improvise and to just play and to swing. It's hard to swing as a harpist. Yeah.
you are on the path. I'm
But I
telling you
think I'm
right. Yeah.
figuring it out.
No, you know what it is? Your ears just keep. And McCarthy's like the funkiest bass player. Did you see the McCarthy family band prior to having them join the band? Did you ever see them play at like a library or anything?
I mean, yes, I have, but
But after
Keen
they
joined
joined, yeah,
the
I mean, because those,
band.
what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
your band. I mean, you guys were sort of hemmed in with the 50-minute sets when I saw you, but I just feel like there is an opportunity to really go into the stratosphere with these cats, and you know,
Absolutely.
I hope. I mean, I think I think people need to. It's good for them to hear it. They don't need to necessarily be. They need to be introduced to original music. Mikaela, before we wrap up set one, I really want to do another set with you, but I know that time is of the essence, and I just there's so much carnage and heaviness and insanity out there in the world and in this country, and it doesn't. You go back to a time when music for a hot minute actually dictated our culture. It really was a powerful force in our culture, and it was message music, and it was social consciousness music. And I kind of just wanted you to talk about your concept of love and how you bring love to the world, and what your hope, what gives you hope for us as a people.
Man, well, I mean, this might sound like a typical thing to say, but
Cliche.
music
Yeah.
is, cliche, but music is a universal language, right?
Absolutely.
So just bringing music to the world is what I have to offer, and I believe it's what I was put on this earth to do, and that's just what I'm going to focus on and try to put more positive energy out there, because I do believe that if everyone is thinking the same thing and on the same I don't know, on the same, like, when many people are thinking of the same thing at the same time, I suppose some sort of meditation, I think that is one of the most powerful things that can change the world. If everybody can try to believe and hope that there is going to be a better future for us, I think that your thoughts are more powerful than you may believe.
Absolutely. Is it just a pipe dream, or is there any way you're going to get into Arizona this year? I mean, I see you in Texas, but just need to get you into Arizona or somewhere in the Southwest. Is that on the
I
calendar?
know, you're right.
You know.
You're right. There isn't anything on the calendar right now, but
I mean, you're playing with all my dear friends. You're playing with the Matson too. You're playing with all these cats, man.
Yeah.
These are all my people, man.
Yeah. We have a new record that it will be coming out sometime this year. Trying to figure it out. So hopefully when that comes out, we will have a big tour set up. We'll be coming to Arizona.
Well, let's let this breathe, but let's definitely do set two. I feel like we're just scratching the surface, and I really, just appreciate and love your vibe, and send you all the love. And you are a healer. You guys are healers, and I think, I give a lot of props to the medical community over the last few years that has just dealt with so much carnage and death, but. On the flip side, I think you guys are as important as medical doctors today, and I pray that our society comes around not just to recognize that, but also compensate you for the work that you're doing. I mean, it's always about playing music, and I just remember like Dizzy Gillespie and those cats would walk in and be like, "We're not playing, man. This is hard work. We're not playing." This is and the compensation and the awareness of the healing factors, especially of original music, is essential. So stay the course, Mikaela, and I appreciate your support as well.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, Jake. This is a really fun interview.
We'll do it again, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Let's do it.
All right, be cool, my friend.
You as well.
Cheers.
Thanks, Jake.
Bye.
Bye.
Happiness is our divine right, and Mikaela Davis provided some sunshine today. We'll be back a little bit later with Lucia Combs. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and we'll see you later.